This video brought to you by Loot Crate. Get awesome goodies from geek culture and 10% off your first order with coupon code CONFLICT. Check the link in the description for more info.
Hello and welcome to Cities Skylines Natural Disasters. Ladies and gentlemen, today we are going to be taking a look at every single one of the disasters that could strike your city. And then we're going to pick one of them and see how exactly my city of Vanilla would deal with such a disaster. So where exactly do you find the disasters in the City Skylines Natural Disasters expansion? Well, you go over here to Landscaping and Disasters, and it's right here on the end. You have the tornado, the earthquake, the sinkhole, the thunderstorm, the forest fire, collapse, fire, tsunami, and meteor strike. Now, two of those might sound very, very simple. Collapse and fire. Yes, they are very simple. Collapse will cause a building to, surprise, surprise, collapse, and fire will set it on fire. Both of those things can, well, result in a building collapsing and leaving behind rubble, which a disaster response unit or team member or whatever they're called will have to come out to search and deem it safe for reconstruction. Or if you're impatient, you can just bulldoze the rubble and not worry about it in the slightest. Triggering all of the disasters is pretty much the same. So if we wanted to set a building on fire, you click fire, and then you have this targeting reticle, and you just pretty much click on a building, and it's gonna be set on fire. So, for example, I fancy setting this building on the end here on fire. I would go ahead and click on it, like so, and it's gonna be on fire, as you can see. So the top of the building's on fire. It is gonna get a little bit worse, but we should be able to deal with this. The city of Vanilla has reasonable fire coverage. The fire departments, they're absolutely everywhere. So we should see a fire truck come and deal with this and put out the fire. The difference, however, with natural disasters and the previous versions of City Skylines is that if a fire isn't dealt with in a reasonable amount of time, it can spread. So neighboring buildings could very well catch fire, and that's probably not something you want to happen, but I do believe the fire department have arrived and we should see this fire being put out. As you can see, it's kind of going away there, and the day is saved. Except the day isn't saved because I just clicked on the building and told it to collapse, which it's now doing, and it's gonna leave behind some rubble. And like I said, we are gonna need the disaster response teams to come out and deal with this to make it safe to build again, which can happen automatically, or I can just click on it and bulldoze it, and it will just build again pretty quickly. Another disaster that could strike your city, most likely as the results of a thunderstorm, is a forest fire. Now, forest fires can be prevented by using things like the fire watchtower combined with fire helicopter depots, because obviously fire trucks can't actually get to the forests, so you do need to use helicopters to put out those fires. But the fire watchtowers have a pretty big area of influence, and if they spot a fire, they will have helicopters come out and deal with it. But we're not going to bother with those yet, because we're not interested in preventing disasters just yet. We are interested in watching them. So if I go ahead and click over here, we should see this forest catch fire pretty quickly, if I'm not mistaken. There it is! That small bush is on fire, and that's gonna spread. Oh boy, is that gonna spread. Like I said, forest fires can be prevented, but not if you don't have a fire watchtower. I'm just gonna sit here on my rock and get a little bit toasty. This is pretty much gonna destroy the entire forest around me, which, if you're building an aesthetically focused city, is probably not going to be good. Or if you're like me and you have a lot of dense, not forest land, but just a lot of dense trees in your city filling up some spaces, you're going to make it very easy for fires to spread through your city. And that's something I'm slightly concerned about with my cities, because if you look in the background, you might be able to see, in fact, I will show you, that I quite frequently use trees as a buffer for the edge of my city. And it really wouldn't be good if such a buffer was to go ahead and catch fire, because then that fire can spread to my buildings super, super easily, which would then set those buildings on fire, would set neighboring buildings on fire, and would generally be a bit of a natural disaster. And if you look to the right of your screen, such a thing is about to strike this row of buildings. Now, like I said, forest fires can be put out by helicopters. They can't be put out by trucks. Building fires can, but this is looking like it's probably gonna cause a serious amount of damage. For example, that building just burst into flames. The buildings around it are probably going to do the same thing. So forest fires in city skylines, potentially devastating, but not the most devastating thing that we've had a look at. Well, it's the most devastating thing we've looked at thus far, but it's not the most devastating thing that we're going to be looking at. Now we're getting into the good stuff. The thunderstorm is basically going to set buildings and forests on fire. Now, we've already got an example of what happens when forests catch fire, but what about buildings across your entire city? What actually happens when there's a thunderstorm in city skylines? Well, let's click on the cathedral in the Wood District and find out. Well, thunderstorms at first are gonna seem like a bit of light rain, but the game's gonna zoom you out and give you a pretty good view of the damage. Lightning is going to strike your city, and it's gonna set buildings on fire, it's gonna set trees on fire, and if you look to the left of my city, and even the right, I really can't afford for another forest fire to hit vanilla. Now, here's something that I've just unintentionally done that I really, really enjoy about these disasters. The whole way through this video, I've given you nice stationary camera positions and all that of everything that's going on. But I paused the game to move the camera to give you a better view of the lightning, and the lightning's actually, well, for one, properly coming down from the sky, and you can see it impacting this little bush, which is cool. But you can also see this giant spike of lightning hitting here. And what's more, it's reflected on the city. Like, the entire thing has just shifted a little bit. There's so much brightness. It's really, really cool. And we can go ahead and just run it like so. And the flashes, it's beautiful. Like, there's another one just striking off the coast. What did that hit? Nothing, apparently. I want to see if I can get one that strikes it when it strikes a building. Oh, no, that was a tree. Let's see. Can we get one as it hits a building? Now, there was a house hit back there. Oh, there we go. No, never mind. What did that hit? That seems to have hit the mountain as well. Well, I would not want to be that guy, but I'll tell you who I also wouldn't want to be. I would not want to be anyone in that building. Because my god... Oh, wow, the London the London Eye seems to be on fire. That's no laughing matter. But yeah, this building here seems to be having a particularly bad time. I'll tell you what, I would love to see a thunderstorm like this at nighttime. Well, it's certainly getting dark, and that thunderstorm was certainly disastrous. There is an entire city block that's on fire, and there seems to be one off in the background that I want to go and have a quick look at as well. That also, yeah, this entire area seems to be on fire. There's a small forest fire out there. But I don't really think... Oh, no, hello. The train station's on fire. That's certainly a problem. Those trees are on fire. My airport is at risk of being on fire. And this area over here generally seems to be okay. I think possibly the worst thing that's happened... Oh, never mind. That's also pretty bad. Wow. It's nighttime. It's raining. There is a thunderstorm, and it is beautiful. I forgot how pretty this game can be at nighttime, but the lighting effects from the lightning just really, really makes it shine. Oh, I think my entire city just lost power. Wow, that was unexpected. My power plant was hit by lightning. I'm curious. Oh, no, it's back. It's back. It's working. We should see the entire city come back online shortly. There we go. Everything's lighting up again, not that it wasn't because of the lightning, but that was interesting, seeing everything go dark. And we just spotted, I think the gherkin in the background was hit by lightning there. That's interesting. I'm pretty sure the large hotel or whatever that is down by the coast was on fire. It's just lit up again. This is really, really cool. This is absolutely beautiful and really cool to see. But we've spent enough time in the thunderstorm. Let's get to the good stuff. Let's see what happens if I trigger an earthquake beneath my universities. I've got 2 of them. It's quite a nice area. My city hall is just over here, and we do have some government offices right there as well. So this is probably going to be a little bit disastrous. But that's kind of the name of the game, isn't it? It's kind of supposed to be. Although I'm really I have tested all of these, by the way, before jumping in to look at them here, so I'm curious to see what it's going to do, because I didn't test the earthquake in a really densely built area, so I'm very curious. It's happening! The ground is shaking! The camera zoomed out to show you that it's happening! The ground is breaking! There is a massive crack going through my city! It destroyed my government offices, my universities, my city hall, something's on fire! Oh my god, everything is just collapsing! Oh, my train line's gone. I think I might have lost a train station there. Earthquakes are devastating. They are absolutely devastating things in city skylines, in real life as well, but if that struck the wrong place, would cripple your city, and in this case, it seems to have shaken my city to the degree that a lot of it has caught fire. So, earthquakes are not to be toyed with, is I think what we've discovered here. But to be honest, neither are tornadoes, neither are sinkholes, and neither are meteor strikes. Speaking of which, let's fire a sinkhole at this nicely built up urban area and see what exactly happens. Not that I don't really think we need to imagine anymore. This is basically one very long sinkhole. Oh, there it is! It's pulling my buildings down with it! It took the road! It took so many buildings! Not as disastrous as an earthquake, though. Arguably not as disastrous as a thunderstorm, either. Admittedly disastrous if it was to hit one of your key buildings, but since mine didn't and people are rebuilding already, I think we might have got off a bit lightly with a sinkhole. Alright, there's not much left at this point. We still need to have a look at the prevention methods and all the ways you can look into maintaining a city post-disaster. But let's see what would happen if we hit it with a meteor. You might be thinking that it's going to be more disastrous than a tornado, but I'm going to show you exactly why it isn't. Let's fire a meteor at a nice dense area like Pine Hills. So this is Pine Hills before a meteor strikes it, and this is Pine Hills during a meteor strike, and this is Pine Hills after a meteor strike. Looks a little bit like Megaton from Fallout 3, and generally doesn't look like a great place to be. There are a lot of burning buildings. There is rubble in the streets blocking traffic. We need rescue services to get over here, but we don't have any. At least not yet. We still have a couple more things that we need to look at first. Like I said, I don't think the meteor strike is the most devastating thing that can happen in your city. I think, honestly, a tornado is much, much worse. I've just told one to go pretty much there. It's not going to go there. It's going to form somewhere. And it's pretty much going to make a beeline from one side of my city to the other. Which, as I'm sure you can imagine, is pretty much going to wreck everything. Especially since I've just set it to be intensity 10, or severity 10, or size 10. Whatever it happens to be. It's going to be as big and strong as it can be. And it's probably gonna break a lot of stuff. There it is. It's coming straight through the city. It's really big. It's a real big tornado, and it's gonna be devastating everything in its path. As you can see, everything it's already touched has been flattened. There are cars and Sims flying through the air, and the tornado is just going to carve a path through everything that I spent 30 videos building. Oh, I'm glad I've got backup saves for this, because I would not want to deal with the aftermath of that kind of tornado. And it is still going. It's just about to wreck the Gherkin. It's heading towards my Eden project, but it actually sort of looks like it's slowing down. So maybe we're gonna get lucky, maybe it's not gonna hit the Eden project, but I don't know if I'm necessarily gonna be all that lucky. I will say it's good that the tornado doesn't cause fires, The meteor does, and fires are a pain to deal with, but the tornado just flattens everything that it touches. I don't know if it's gonna wreck my Eden project. It looks like it's kind of turned. It looks like it might actually be going back. No, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what it's doing. It might just be staying there for a moment. But that is absolutely the, I'm gonna say, second most devastating thing that could happen in your city, because the tsunami, well, I'm gonna say it's tied with the tsunami. Because the tsunami is very, very bad. Because it can cover your whole city. If you have a coastal city, that whole thing is just covered. But I mean, we can come in here, we can have a look around, and this thing, as you can see, has flattened everything in this path. It looks like a war zone, to put it bluntly, and it's still going. There are cars flying, there are Sims flying. I would like to point out, by the way, if you click on someone that's been affected by it, they, well, he's apparently trying to get back to his facility, but I do believe if you click on one of the cars that's flying, their status is confused, which is, I kind of find that a little bit funny. I mean, you kind of would be, wouldn't you? There are Sims up there, like I said, we have this guy, for example, who I can't actually, I don't think you can click on the Sims. You can click on cars, and they are all just very, very confused. Understandably. I don't really think you'd know what to do if you were in the air like that. But at least they land. You know, they get set back down. Oh my god, that's my tourism district there. Like I said, tornadoes. They like to make a bit of a beeline across your city. And they don't really like to stop until they've gone the whole way through. Fortunately, we are apparently just dealing with the one. I may have occasionally set off 2 of them at a time, which is not something I can necessarily recommend doing, because that's a surefire way to flatten the entire city. There we go. Tornado's done. And the damage is pretty clear. Pretty clear indeed. So last but certainly not least is going to be the tsunami. I have never done a severity, strength, intensity, size 10 tsunami. I have tested a small tsunami on this city before, and it was devastating. So we're going to see what happens when I send a tsunami sort of that way. Now, there is an interesting thing to keep in mind with the tsunamis. Depending on your map, it can take a very long amount of time for a tsunami to actually reach your city. In this case, it's not going to take that long, but it is still going to take a little bit of time because we need to wait for it to come in from pretty much way out there. There's something really, really scary about watching a wall of water slowly form on the side of your screen. And there's absolutely no way to stop that from hurtling towards my city, which is exactly what it's doing. This is also terrifying, and this is something that tsunamis actually do. Usually when triggered by earthquakes, which I think is pretty much generally the only way that they're triggered. Either way, seeing the water retreat from the coastline is a sign of an incoming tsunami. That is one of the first warnings you're gonna get if it's not been detected sooner. And in this case, the water is retreating from the coastline. And as you can see, there is a bloody big wave about to hit this city. Ah, there we go. The game's finally decided to warn me about the tsunami. It's gonna do a pretty good job of flattening most of the buildings that it touches. As you can see, some of the buildings are already collapsing. Pretty much as soon as they get submerged, they kind of collapse, which is, I would say, a bit of a disaster, to be honest. And that thing's pretty tall. Taller than a lot of the buildings in my city. So we can pretty much say that that entire coastline is a bit of a write-off. We can say that most of my city is going to be a bit of a write-off as well, because that thing is not going to slow down for a while. You might be able to notice in the water, there are some cars bobbing about there. That is a thing they do. They Bob Bite in the water. It's certainly a thing that they do. And that water is just still going. Still in places 2 or 3 times taller than some of my buildings. And that is a terrifying realization. And you might notice the land behind the tsunami is very, very flat. Yeah, this is why I said that the tsunami is arguably, well, it is more devastating than a meteor strike. And looking at this, I'm going to say that a size 10, severity 10 tsunami is a lot worse than a size 10 tornado. A tsunami is the worst thing that could happen to your city in City Skylines natural disasters. And I think I can back up that claim by showing you just how many different areas there are that have been reduced to rubble. Including areas on the hill. We are going to be looking at a nice little lake there in Pine Hills, as well as over here we're going to have a small river. But basically anything that's not a giant building has been flattened. My god. I'd also like to point out, I started this with a population of what, 87,000? Most of them are dead at this point. Yeah. This thing is devastating. Absolutely devastating. There would be no coming back from this, I don't think. I honestly don't think there would be any way to come back from a full strength tsunami on a coastal city. I think this would probably be game over for... It would be game over for me, for sure. It would absolutely be game over for me, but what can you do? What can you do to perhaps lessen the casualties and look after those affected by disaster? Well, I'm going to show you. So Vanilla has woken up from that nightmare and is ready to put in some plans into action to prevent that kind of disaster from killing everybody. So what we're going to do is go to here and go to disaster services, and you have things like the disaster response unit, which will send out helicopters and trucks carrying personnel to help clear rubble and rescue survivors. They handle both disaster aftermath and burned down buildings. After the response unit has done their work, the ground is then free for building. Now this I'm going to attempt to place on a hill somewhere. In fact, no, you know what? We're not going to play with a tsunami again because that's too devastating. What I'll do is put a little stretch of road just here. And I'll put a couple of disaster response units out on that bit of road. So, there and there. And those are going to be capable of dealing with quite a bit. They have each got, the text is too long for a start, but they have 10 vehicles and 3 helicopters each, so that is a total of, 20 vehicles and 6 helicopters, which is completely fine. What we'll do as well is go ahead and look at stuff like this. The short radio mast, which allows emergency broadcasts to reach your citizens. The better radio coverage the city has, the more likely citizens are to come to shelters when called. Terrain can hinder those signals, and then we have a big version of it as well, which is a very interesting thing to place because of the shape of it. But in this case, I'm going to use something like a lot of fire, maybe, or maybe a meteor strike. We might use a meteor strike. I'll go ahead and put one of these towers just over there. And as you can see, it has a pretty big... This is the small one, by the way. Pretty big area of influence. So there we go. We put that down, and our coverage is pretty decent. I would like a big one, though, so I'm going to throw it just sort of over here. Like that. And it's got enormous coverage. So pretty much most of the city. We'll put another one there. And that gives us pretty good coverage. Pretty good coverage indeed. We are going to want to make sure these things have electricity, though. So bring that into there, and continue the electrical signal out to those guys. And that should be good. That's giving us a pretty good signal across the entire city. We have things like this, which is an earthquake sensor, which has a pretty big area of influence as well. So if we throw that in there, it's going to show us a nice amount of influence and hopefully detect any incoming earthquakes across my entire city. We also have the tsunami warning buoy, which monitors water levels and sends out a warning if there are changes so that you can prepare if there's a tsunami on the way. I don't think this thing has an AoE. I think you just place them in the water like this and generally just hope for the best in that particular case. There is the weather radar, which keeps a watch on weather patterns. It predicts strong thunderstorms and tornadoes and can even notify you of where it is going to hit. So basically this thing will tell you where something is, where it's going to hit, and roughly what kind of damage it's going to do. So we've placed that already. You only ever need one of them, and that'll alert us if something goes horrendously wrong. And a similar story with the deep space radar, which I'm sure you can imagine is for meteor strikes. So plop that just there and it'll let us know if there is an incoming meteor strike, which there currently isn't. So I do believe that's everything. Ah, the bunkers. I almost forgot the bunkers. Bunkers are interesting. This one can hold up to 10,000 people. Costs a lot of money to run, but is very, very useful. And we're going to go ahead and throw an emergency bunker just up there. So if we plop it there, you can click on the bunker. And as you can see, it is currently filling up with water and food and power. And it's basically designed to sustain 10,000 people. But you do need to set up an evacuation route. So in this case, what I'm going to do is say that the buses for evacuating people are going to go this way. And all around this area a little bit. Down to, say, there. And I basically want to be able to pick up as many people as I possibly can to get them to safety. So we'll sort of bring the buses around this way a little bit. And then back up and in there. We'll say that that's fine. It's not the ideal evacuation route, obviously. But that is hopefully going to help people to get to the bunker should a disaster strike. And if we click on this, as you can see, it is still stacking up on all sorts of things. Interestingly, it seems that people are going in there already, which is weird. I'm not entirely sure why they are going in there at the moment. But, to each their own, I suppose. I have no idea why they're going in there and eating my food. I have absolutely no idea why those people are eating my food, but there you go. At least we have water and we have power. And as you can see, it is almost indestructible. Oh, there we go. There's a whole bunch of food. Alright, let's, I guess, go ahead and set off a series of disasters. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to click everywhere with, oh, it's on cooldown. I'm going to click everywhere I can and set a lot of fires so that we might have reason for people to go ahead and evacuate. I could set off an earthquake as well. That would certainly be reason for people to evacuate as well, and I think I might just do that. So let's set an earthquake just over this way, which will hopefully trigger some fires in this area. Ah, now this is interesting. I can click on this, and as you can see, that's going to be the affected area by the earthquake, because we have this. Oh, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Where did I put it? This little building here. The weather. No, is it the weather radar? I don't know what it. No, it was the seismic monitors. Of course it was. So that earthquake's about to strike. I've been given the early warning. So what I'm going to do is say that this bunker needs to start evacuating citizens, which is going to sound the alarm, and it's going to send out the buses, and you should see a lot of people coming over this way to evacuate their houses. A lot of them are coming from the rich neighborhood, which isn't really going to be affected. But we should also see a lot of people in this area gathering and preparing to get out of here. As you can see, a lot of people funneling in there. Already 30... Okay, there's more than 39 of them. There's a lot of them. But they're going to evacuate. And they're going to wait for the earthquake to strike. This thing is nearly indestructible, so we're going to put that to the test in a moment. Not entirely convinced we have enough food, but I guess we'll see what happens. The buses are currently stuck in traffic, which is less than ideal. The evacuation buses are stuck in traffic. That's not good. That is very, very not good. Also, interestingly, all those fires went out, which is fortunate because we've just been struck with an earthquake, which is likely going to cause quite a few fires in quite a few places. So there we go. Earthquake is ripping through this area. And it's causing all sorts of damage. We have a few fires kicking off that way. We have a few up that way. We should... Oh, there's a few done this way as well. Bit of rubble just there as well. Lots of destroyed buildings in the area. You might notice, though, all of the emergency vehicles heading out to deal with it. They are going to go to this place and search for survivors. And once they've done that, then the game's going to say, okay, this is fine to go ahead and automatically rebuild when the demand is there. We also have the no helicopters out at the moment, which is interesting. Helicopters usually do go out, but I guess maybe we don't need them. I'm not really sure what's going on with that. In fact, I'll tell you why the helicopters aren't going out. There are no blocked roads. Those vehicles can get to everywhere that they need to go, I do believe. So that'll be why the helicopters aren't heading out at the moment. But if we have another little look at the bunker, there are almost 1,000 people in there. But to be honest, they probably don't need to be, so we're going to kick them out. There we go. So they're all going to be kicked out of the bunker and left to their own devices, really. And ladies and gentlemen, that is... there's the helicopter. That is pretty much it. There are a few other things I didn't point out, such as the fire helicopter depot, which you can throw... We'll just quickly throw this in somewhere. Where are we going to put it? We'll quickly throw it over here. So the fire helicopter depot, you have a police helicopter depot as well, and you also have the medical helicopter depot, which you can throw in there too. And basically all of those things are going to be useful. The police one, for example, can deal with crimes and reduces crimes. The medical helicopter one is basically going to pick up patients and bring them to hospitals that have a helipad. And the fire helicopters are good for major fires and also putting out forest fires. And really, that is kind of it. There are, like I said, a couple of other things that you might want to look into that I can highly recommend you look into, but that is my extended look at all of the disasters and some disaster prevention methods in Cities Skylines Natural Disasters. I do believe the third expansion to Cities Skylines, and if I'm not mistaken, we should be able to look into this area and see, yeah, there we go. This lot here is ready for rebuilding, which will happen automatically once the demand is there for that to be automatically bulldozed and rebuilt. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is gonna be it. Hopefully you've enjoyed this look at everything on offer in Cities Skylines Natural Disasters, releasing this November 29th, 2016. A huge thank you to Paradox for providing me with a key to have a look at the game a little bit early. And that is going to be it. I never noticed how big that tower is. Huh. Interesting. Yeah, that is going to be it. Thank you kind of for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye!